Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Friday Night Study Club, where cybersecurity meets reality. I'm your host, Ravi Bhaskara. I'm a cybersecurity project manager. I am a PMP certified and CISA certified with 2 decades of experience, coming with a software development background and global experience. And I've been part of a dozen audits involving internal, external, statutory. And today we are diving deep into something that might not be on your radar, but should absolutely be the technical controls of the ISMS 27001. Now, before you skip ahead, let me tell you why this episode is worth your attention. Whether you are in IT, a security enthusiast, or someone just curious about keeping your digital assets safe, what we discuss today could be the difference between cyber resilience and a massive data breach. I'll walk you through 15 powerful technical controls in the ISMS 27001 Annex A that are not only relevant but crucial to protecting your organization's sensitive information. So grab your headphones, buckle in, and let's talk about how to secure your tech like a pro. For those unfamiliar, ISO 27001 is a global standard for information security management systems, as also known as ISMS. It's like the secret recipe for safeguarding your organization's data, ensuring everything from how you store, manage, and dispose of information is up to par with the best security practices out there. One of the most crucial sections is Annex A, where we can find technical controls, those nitty gritty mechanisms that ensure your systems are actually secure. Think of them as the backbone that holds everything together. Today, we'll explore 15 of these technical controls, dissecting what they mean and how they can be practically applied. The first one is, let's start with something that touches everyone: user endpoint devices. These are the laptops, smartphones, tablets, and desktops your team usually uses daily to access company information. Simple, right? But here is the catch. These endpoints are often the weakest link in an organization's security chain. One wrong click on a phishing email, and bam, you have opened the door to an attack. I remember this case from a friend in IT. A CEO clicked on a fake email link, infecting his entire system. No one thought the CEO would be a target, but guess what? Attackers aim for the top because that's where the most sensitive information sits. After the breach, they implemented strict controls on endpoint devices, ensuring antivirus software, firewalls, and VPNs were in place. Lesson learned: protect every device, especially the ones people think are safe. Next up, privileged access rights. These are the holy grail of permissions. When users have too much access, they can even accidentally wreak havoc on a system. Worse yet, if hackers gain control of these privileged accounts, they can bypass most of the security measures. I once consulted for a firm that had over 100 users with admin rights. Sounds chaotic, right? It was. By the time we limited admin access to only those who actually needed it, the systems were much secure and operational efficiency went through the roof. It's a reminder that just because someone can have access doesn't mean they should. Ever heard of information access restriction? It's another layer to ensure that all employees can view sensitive information. or no. Just like how a janitor doesn't need the same key as the CEO, your system should operate on a need to know basis. The Ponemon Institute found that 71% of employees have access to data they shouldn't see. Think about that. How much information do your employees have access to that they don't even use? I worked with a team where an intern accessed the financial data of clients completely by accident. If they had restricted access more effectively, that incident could have been avoided entirely. This control isn't just about trust, it's about creating a system where mistakes don't cost you. Then we have the access to source code control. Now, one of the critical for software developers and tech companies. If someone gains unauthorized access to your source code, they can exploit vulnerabilities or steal your intellectual property. A tech startup I know had a lax controls around source code access. A disgruntled employee downloaded portions of their proprietary software before quitting, which was later sold to competitors. They had no idea until the damage was done. Now they have stringent rules in place. Access is only granted on a project basis and is meticulously logged. The next control is the secure authentication. One of my favorite personal favorites. We all know passwords aren't enough anymore. But what about two factor authentication or biometric verification? These additional layers can prevent unauthorized access even if passwords are compromised. I once worked with a company that implemented biometric authentication for employees handling sensitive customer data. After a phishing attack where some passwords were stolen, the hackers couldn't break in of the because of the 2FA wall. It was like having a guard dog behind the door. Here is some statistics. Microsoft reports that multi-factor authentication can block 99.9% of automated cyber attacks. If you don't have it in place, you are missing out on one of the easiest way to secure your systems. The next control, capacity management. Let's dive into capacity management. It sounds boring, but hear me out. Imagine your system crashes just because you didn't plan for growth. That's what capacity management helps with, ensuring you have enough reasons to handle the load without compromising performance. I recall an e commerce company that experienced a massive traffic surge during one of the events, Black Friday. The system crashed for hours, losing them thousands of dollars in revenue. Post crisis, they revamped their capacity management, ensuring they could scale up on demand during high traffic periods. A study showed that 54% of companies experience downtime because they fail to manage capacity effectively. Don't be one of them. Now we'll go to the next control. Let's talk about protection against malware. We have all heard the stories, ransomware attacks, crippling hospitals, malware shutting down companies. But are you doing enough to prevent it? McAfee latest report claims malware is now more sophisticated than ever with over millions of new malware variants detected every day. One organization I consulted with suffered a malware attack because I clicked on a malicious link in an email. That single action caused the entire system to be compromised. After that, they implemented strict anti malware policies, updating their software regularly and training their employees to recognize phishing attempts. Next on the list is the management of technical vulnerabilities. This one is a bit like playing whack a mole. You need to keep patching and updating your systems as new vulnerabilities are discovered. So this is always an ongoing process, or you risk falling victims to known exploits. I remember working with a client that delayed updating their software because of budget concerns. Guess what? They were hit by a well known exploit that had been patched months before. Lesson learned: patching is far cheaper than fixing the aftermath of a breach. Let's not forget another important control: the configuration management. Think of it as the instruction manual for your system. If you don't keep it up to date, you are basically flying blind. A client had a misconfigured firewall that accidentally allowed unauthorized access to sensitive information. If they had proper configuration management, this issue could have been avoided. Now we come to the another control, the information deletion, which is of very practical importance. Once data is no longer needed, people just don't care about it, but it's vital to secure and delete it. If it left hanging around, it can be a gold mine for hackers. I knew a company that failed to properly delete old customer data. Now, what happened? After a breach, that unused information became part of the leaked data. Now they follow strict deletion protocols, ensuring old information is safely destroyed. Audience, you are tuning into the Friday Night Club. We will continue with the next five controls. We have one more important control, which is data masking. If you are wondering what data masking is, think think of it as a disguise for sensitive data. It's like giving a superhero a mask, hiding their true identity but keeping the essence of the information intact for testing or development purposes. Why is this important? Imagine you are working on developing a new feature for your company's software. You need to test it using real customer data to ensure accuracy. But here is the problem: you don't want to expose sensitive customer information during the testing process. That's where data masking steps in. I once worked with a company in the healthcare sector that was testing a new feature in their patient management system. The testing team used actual patient data without any masking in place. And you can guess what happened next? A minor bug caused some of the sensitive patient information to be visible to unauthorized developers. It was a nightmare. Post incident, they quickly implemented data masking policies to anonymize all customer information used for testing. This helped them develop and test features without ever exposing real patient data again. Did you know that 60% of the organization that handle sensitive data in their testing environments don't use data masking? That's a risky game to play. By using masking techniques, company can reduce the risk of accidental data exposure. So as more and more awareness comes, lot more companies are going to implement data masking strictly so that we do not see any company missing this crucial control in the future developments. Next on the list is a big one, the leakage prevention, also called as DLP. Have you ever been concerned about sensitive information leaking out of your organization, either intentionally or unintentionally? If so, DLP should be your best friend. Data leakage prevention is all about putting safeguards in place to prevent data from being shared with unauthorized entities, whether it's via email, external drives, or even cloud storage. Imagine you are a company handling sensitive financial data without DLP measures. An employee could mistakenly attach a confidential financial report to an email and send it to the wrong person. Or worse, a disgruntled employee could steal sensitive information for malicious reasons. I once consulted with a finance firm that had this exact issue. An employee accidentally sent sensitive financial data to a personal email address. The data wasn't encrypted, and within hours, it ended up on a public forum. This incident led to significant damage to the company's reputation. After that, they implemented a robust DLP system that prevented employees from sharing sensitive data outside approved channels. It was a game changer for them and it ensured no more accidental leaks. Moving on, let's talk about the another control, the information backup, the unsung hero of every organization. Backups are like insurance policies for your data. In the event of a disaster, whether that's a cyber attack, system failure, or even human error, you need a reliable copy of your data to restore operations. There's a memorable story of a medium sized retail company that experienced a massive ransomware attack. All their customer data and financial records were encrypted. The attackers demanded a huge ransom to release the data. Unfortunately, the company hadn't taken backup seriously. Their last backup was more than 6 months old. They were forced to pay the ransom, which set them back financially and damaged their credibility. Since then, they have implemented regular automated backups and even test their backup integrity every month to make sure they can fully recover in case of another attack. Now, moving on to the next control. Let's now talk about redundancy of information processing facilities. A mouthful, I know, but crucial nonetheless. Redundancy ensures that if one part of your system fails, there is another ready to take over. It's like having a backup engine on a plane. If one engine fails, you can keep flying with the other. I once worked with a logistics company that experienced a complete system failure during their busiest season. Their entire ordering and shipping system went down for over 48 hours. The issue, they didn't have redundant information processing facilities in place. There was no backup system to switch over to. They lost millions in revenue and learned the hard way that redundancy is not optional when it comes to mission critical systems. And finally, let's wrap up with logging, which is another important control. Logging is all about maintaining detailed record activities within your systems. It keeps a diary for your data. Everything that happens is recorded, which is essential when you need to troubleshoot issues or investigate suspicious activity. I remember a case where a tech company was hit by a data breach and they had no way to trace the source of the attack. Why? Because their logging system was either non existent or poorly maintained. They had no records to help track how the attacker entered their system or what data had been accessed. After the breach, they implemented detailed logging practices across all systems. Not only could they better monitor activities in real time, but they were also prepared for any future forensic investigation should another breach occur. Wow, what a journey! We have covered the 15 technical controls from the ISMS 27001 Annex, from securing user endpoint devices to managing vulnerabilities and deleting sensitive information. Each control plays a critical role in protecting your organization's data. We also talked about data masking, which helps protect sensitive information during testing, data leak prevention, which stops sensitive data from leaking out, information backup, your safety net in case of the data loss, redundancy of information processing facilities, which keeps your systems running even when disaster strikes. And finally, logging, your record keeper that helps with security, monitoring, and investigations. So I think these are the pretty much 15 controls for this episode. And I hope you appreciate why the reasons of these controls are in place. So what's your next step? Review your systems, see where you can implement these controls to tighten the security. And if you find this episode helpful, please share. Stay safe, stay tuned. Until next time.